My name's Mary Runkle, and I work for the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation, and yeah, we're out here doing a prairie seed harvest. We're collecting seeds from the prairie that are dried now because it's the end of the season, and we'll collect them and then dry them out even further and then use them to expand the prairie on a different section of this particular piece of land. The prairie is important, the ecosystem in general. Iowa used to be 85–90% prairie, and we're trying to bring some of that back. I think that's, yeah.
I'd like to thank you all for coming out and volunteering your time. My name is Mike Stegman, Director of the Marshall County Conservation Board, and the staff of the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation is joining us today to gather seed for the final 37 to 40 acres of seeding with the Marietta Sand Prairie restoration efforts. It started a little over 10 years ago in conjunction with the Heritage Foundation. Mark, I don't know if it was Mark or Anita that first called me and inquired as to whether or not the County Conservation Board would be interested in owning, in addition to the original 19-acre Marietta Sand Prairie State Preserve. And of course, we jumped at the opportunity to add to it, and seeding over time initially got started with baby steps, and then one year took a huge step with 90 acres being reconstructed, which is basically what you see behind us. And that was in part due to a public seed harvest similar to what we're going to do today. We're going to be breaking up into small groups with the Heritage Foundation staff and myself, and we're going to go to different locations, and we will show you what species to harvest. And we've got bags. Stay as long as you want. I'll let Mary talk about the refreshments in a minute, and of course Joe. But again, thanks for coming out and helping us. And I think we'll just let Joe, if you want to step in and
sure.
Give your 2 cents on the project and how it's matured. And again, this is a long term. This has been 10 years since we first started the initial seeding reconstructions out here. And interestingly enough, as time has progressed, and if you have a chance, if you've never been out here in the summertime, say end of July, 1st of August, you cannot believe the rainbow, the array of colors that exists out here. It's a beautiful reconstructed prairie. And of course, it's a tall grass prairie, but it's also unique in that it's a sand prairie. We do have some of the typical tall grass species present, the big blue and Indian, but the prominent grass species that you see, the wispy little stuff behind us, is sand lovegrass. Now, we're not going to be collecting any of that today because where we're going to be planting is a little bit heavier soil, so we're going to be putting in more of your typical tall grass stuff. But Joe, if you want to step in and...
Well, thank you everybody for coming. Sorry, my shirt's seen better days. This thing's kind of tore up, but it's my shade shirt, and I don't give up on clothing. So if it waves, just don't be distracted. But I just want to thank you all for coming. This project is with partnership with Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation, obviously Marshall County Conservation Board, Pheasants Forever, Iowa Prairie Network, Iowa Native Plant Society, private donors. So please take a look at the rock. I'm not going to be able to cover everybody on there, but take a look at this rock. Those are the significant partners. Also take a look at the signs that you see. Funding through REAP, Resource Enhancement and Protection, is critical. If I recall, I think this scored #1 on the REAP, which is a competitive scoring, and it's a statewide scoring. So this property was significant in many ways. The main thing was that we had a state preserve that was dedicated in the late 80s. 1984, so mid-80s or early 80s. Then Governor Branstad sat and helped dedicate that state preserve, which was only 18 acres. So when you can add 212 acres to 17 acres and make a nice almost 240 acre area in partnership with all these different groups, you have to seize that opportunity. So not only were we able to plant new prairie, we were able to buffer an existing one, we were able to protect a fen, and we did this in kind of a longer process. So it was important for us to use native local ecotype seed. So not seed from Oklahoma or Minnesota, but seed right here from central Iowa. And that's part of what you're going to be helping with today, is collecting native, local ecotype seed. Every little seed you hold in your hand has the potential of being a plant on protected land that'll be preserved forever. And so just over the hill is where that seed's going to go. That's kind of a neat thing for us to have that project have a long life. And we're going to finish it off this week. We're going to get all the seed, and then it'll be planted in like a month. So that's a lot of fun. So there's going to be some people helping. I want to let you know Tyler Samuels. She's with INHF staff. Mary, she'll talk a little bit about the how we do this, but she's our volunteer coordinator. Tyler's land stewardship staff. Lisa Hine, INHF staff. Ryan Schmidt, INHF staff. And then I also want to thank board member David Brown for being here. If it weren't for our board, we wouldn't be able to do these things. They're the ones who give us that vote of confidence and let us take on projects like this.
90+% of what we're going to be collecting today is going to be the forb species. They're not going to be the grass species. And that's also in an effort to increase the number of flowers available for the pollinators. There's a big push now for pollinator species, trying to help them, the butterflies and the bees, things like that. And I know just on another area we've got over about 10 miles from here, we put in 20 acres of a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service mix that was one of the fastest prairie growing mixes I've ever seen this summer, and there was an immediate response by the migrating monarchs. I went out there about 2-3 weeks ago, and literally thousands of monarchs were feeding on the nectar of the late blooming species. So this will aid in conjunction with that. And as part of the, Marshall County is one of the I-35 corridor counties from all the way from Canada to Mexico, trying to help monarch migration, as well as, like I said, even just the local honeybee populations. So.
Okay. Well, we'll get started. I know everyone's here, wants to collect seed. There's a lot. If you have any questions, we want to make sure that you also enjoy your time. So feel free to look around, wander. If you happen to collect some seed, that's great. Everything will go to good use. So feel free to spend the time how you want. We're here to collect seed, but we're also here to enjoy the outdoors and kind of be a kind of a conservation community together. So thank you for making it. 3 o'clock, right? Mm-hmm. Back here. But if you're really dead set on picking seed and you don't want to come back at 3, we won't stop you. So
it's pretty straightforward. Once you get out there, you'll learn how to pick the particular seed. We'll have different people mixed up among you. Don't be worried about that. It's pretty straightforward once you get out there.
We've got smaller bags that you'll be carrying and collecting in, and then we'll have larger communal bags that we'll dump all that seed in, and then I'll take it back to our shop and dry it out tonight.
Is this your first time collecting prairie seeds? Most of us.
So who's experienced in collecting prairie seed? You want to be comfortable identifying? Semi-comfortable? Okay.
What we'll do is we'll get you on one species. It's very clear. They'll be right here. You just stay on one single species. That way when we look in the bag, we know what you've collected, and we can make sure, one, that it's what we want, which it will be. But also, if you want to switch species, you get bored doing the same one, no problem. Just give us the bag. We'll put a new one in. So when we break into the small groups, that's the easiest way, and it'll be just that simple. We'll say, here's the seed, here's the plant, collect it, put it in the bag, you can just bring it back here. Does that make sense? It's not rocket science. It's real simple and a lot of fun. So we'll go ahead and get started.
There you go. I'm sorry, I didn't get this one. Brett, are you over there?
Yes. Over time, we worked with the Marshall County Conservation Board. They were more than excited to take title to it. And over the last 10 years, we've been converting that land. Marshall County's been converting it, bumblebee, to Prairie. And been using local seed from Iowa and central Iowa and some from the preserve, so that we've got a nice prairie planting. And today we're gathering seed that will go on the last little bit, about what, 50 acres, I think it is?
Actually, it's right. It's the 37-acre
37 acres, yep. And so the
Well,
seed
no.
that's going to be collected today will go on that planting, so the entire 200 acres will now be restored back to the sandy prairie area that it once was historically, with local ecotype seed. So anyway, so we're here today to have you guys help enjoy a sunny day in the prairie, gathering seed. And just at 3 o'clock, we're going to have cider and pumpkin bars. So there's like 3 groups. There's a central group here. There's a far group over there, and then there's some folks up at the remnant.
So it's kind of like Central Fen Remnant.
Okay, and there's a
Whatever you're
fen
interested in.
over there.
There's a lot in here about what we're picking. Is
Yes.
there anything in there that I might come along and, oh, there's some seeds, I'll pick that, and you didn't want those?
No, you really
In the
can't do
back,
anything.
There are a couple, like the mullen.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
you don't want mullen?
No.
Oh, okay.
And we want pretty much 1 species per bag.
And we'll kind of set you up with what one to gather.
Oh,
Yep,
yeah.
and
You'll
if
get
you
eyed for
decide
it.
which area you want to go to, there'll be somebody up in each of those areas telling you what species to collect.
Has anyone done a prairie seed collection or before? Okay. You were just there last week. Okay. So ask kind of the people that raise their hand, they might know. Too, right?
So who are we looking for when we're out there? We're looking for Mike
Well,
Stegman?
if you go back in the back to the fen, that's Ryan, and that'll be a little bit more wet and a little bit more of a hike. Couple of species back there, and then Joe. Can you walk right to the remnant from here?
Yeah.
So Joe's over there, and Tyler Samuels are both down there.
So if folks
And then
have
I'll
an
be
idea
here.
of where they want to go, we'll get you to the right people.
So can we have a handful of people
we're
to
doing
go
it.
with Ryan? Yeah. Okay.
Where are you gonna go?
What do you think, Mike? You want to do some partridge?
Yes, let's do some partridge pea, which is, some of it's actually still in bloom. The little yellow flower right at the tip here. And then they're legumes, so they're bean pods really is what they are. And some of them are green yet. And actually some of them have actually opened up when they're brown and curled. They've opened up and dropped
You
their
don't want
seed.
those.
Actually what you can do is walk up to a plant, just like the bush clover. You find a plant like that, you can just strip and this is actually one of the best
Yep.
quail foods there is. Very bird foods, highly nutritious. See, who wants to do partridge pea?
I'll do weekend.
Okay. You want to do?
Yeah.
We'll get you guys
Well,
on
we
maybe
could
some
ask them.
Golden Star.
Okay.
Okay. There's,
Because folks are getting their.
Okay.
Of course, fall is the most bountiful time of year with seed harvests, hunting seasons open, of course, fishing continuing into the cool seasons, with many people pursuing the Iowa River as well as Sand Lake for walleyes. The seed harvest recently held at the Marietta Sand Prairie will be used, seed gathered at that harvest will be used to reseed the last 40 acres of that project. The project itself is about a 10-year-old restoration effort trying to restore what was very poor crop ground back to native vegetation for the flora and fauna that used to reside hundreds of years ago here in Marshall County. If you haven't had a chance to visit any of the county parks recently, you might take a venture out. Places like Greencastle Recreation Area, the Grimes Farm, and Sand Lake have had facelifts over the last few months. Greencastle Recreation Area, of course, the lake itself is full again. The water has been restocked with native fish. They're growing of catchable size now, so hopefully this winter ice fishermen will be able to take advantage of the fish populations. We've also made improvements around the bison exhibit. You'll notice a new fence around the pasture areas and a new hay storage facility that's sited with native hardwood lumber that Marshall County Conservation Board employees have salvaged from wind-damaged trees in the county park areas. Also at Greencastle, you'll notice new signs that have an audio tour available for public use. A toll-free phone number is available with an extension that will allow you to hear audio of whatever exhibit you might be looking at. For example, the trumpeter swans, the bison exhibit, the lake restoration efforts, or Gander Lookout shelter house for reservation schedule. With hunting seasons open this fall, the #1 priority should be of concern is safety. Of course, adhere to the rules and regulations set forth by the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, found in the annual hunting and fishing regulations that are posted and available wherever you get your hunting and fishing licenses. Certain cases like pheasant season, you have to have blaze orange on, as well as the shotgun deer seasons. Archers need to be careful, of course, with climbing tree stands, and always want to have your safety harness on. The number one hunting accident that occurs annually are people falling out from tree stands.